Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning and welcome to RPtv. Today is Tuesday, December 7th, 2021. It looks like the weather is going to keep us guessing, as it continues to dramatically change from day to day, and the potential for snow is good. Damon has the details.
This week's weather will be very diverse, with different weather patterns hitting us from all directions. Monday's warm and sunny weather started off in the morning, hitting 60s and windy conditions hitting us at night. Wind speeds hit up to 45 miles per hour. Today, as well as the rest of the week, will start off with cold weather. Forecasters predict that today will be quiet and cool. Wind speeds are low and temperatures in between highs and lows of 40. Wednesday, for most New Jersey citizens, will show snowy conditions. The National Weather Service predicts that there will be only half an inch of snow. They suspect the air is too dry to generate a large amount of snow. The snow will be gone during the first half of the night. Thursday and Friday are predicted to be dry, with high temperatures in the low 40s and about 50, respectively.
Today marks the 80th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor, which led to Americans' entrance into World War II. So let's go to Alana and take a look back at that memorable day.
80 years ago today, at 7:55 a.m. Hawaii time, a Japanese dive bomber appears out of the clouds above the island of Oahu. A swarm of 360 Japanese warplanes followed, descending on the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor in a ferocious assault. The surprise attack struck a critical blow against the U.S. Pacific Fleet and drew the United States into World War II. President Franklin D. Roosevelt and his advisors knew that an imminent Japanese attack was probable, but nothing had been done to increase security at the important naval base. It was Sunday morning, and many military personnel had been given passes to attend religious services off base. At 7:02 a.m., two radar operators spotted large groups of aircraft in flight toward the island from the north, but with a flight of B-17s expected from the United States at the time, they were told to sound no alarm. Thus, the Japanese air assault came as a devastating surprise to the naval base. Most of the Pacific Fleet was rendered useless. 5 of 8 battleships, 3 destroyers, and even 7 other ships were sunk or severely damaged, and more than 200 aircraft were destroyed. A total of 2,400 Americans were killed and 1,200 were wounded, many whilst bravely attempting to repulse an attack. Fortunately for the U.S., all 3 Pacific Fleet carriers were out at sea on training maneuvers. The day after Pearl Harbor was bombed, President Roosevelt appeared before a joint session of Congress and declared, "Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan." After a brief and forceful speech, He asked Congress to approve a resolution recognizing the state of war between the United States and Japan. The Senate voted for war by 82-0, and the House of Representatives approved the resolution by a vote of 388-1. 3 days later, Germany and Italy declared war against the United States, and the U.S. government responded in kind. The American contribution to the successful Allied war effort spanned 4 long years and cost more than 400,000 American lives.
Now it's time for announcements. Art Club and National Art Honor Society will meet every Friday starting this week in the art room at room 102. Join us for creating art and hanging out with friends. The RPHS Theater Department is pleased to announce that the 2022 RPHS Spring Musical will be Willy Wonka. Auditions for the musical will be held today and tomorrow at 6 p.m. Sign-up sheets and audition packets are located in the high school main office. All students that wish to audition must sign up. Fill out an audition packet, bring the packet to your audition. Please see Mr. Witowski, Mr. Williamson, Ms. Dombrowski, and Mrs. Arango with any questions, or email Music Director Doug Panetta. If you're looking for some fun and knowledge, check out the French Club. Upcoming meetings are scheduled at December 9th and December 16th. The time is 2:45 to 3:45, and the place is room 3. Scientists around the world are keeping a close watch on one particular asteroid as it streaks through the heavens and veers closer to Earth. Damien has that report.
A huge asteroid as large as the Eiffel Tower is zipping through space and will make a near-Earth approach this month. But don't cancel your holiday plans. Experts say the giant space rock, which is about 1,082 feet wide, will not pose a threat to our planet because it will remain about 2.4 million miles away from us during its closest approach on December 11th. Although that sounds very far, and it is from our vantage point here on Earth, NASA experts who monitor asteroids classify the particular rock as potentially hazardous because of its size and orbit. That classification includes any asteroid that will pass within 4.65 million miles of Earth's orbit and is larger than about 500 feet across. There are a lot of rocks that fall into that category. To get some perspective on this asteroid size, the Eiffel Tower stretches 1,024 feet high, not including its antenna, and is 410 feet wide on the ground. By comparison, the Empire State Building's 1,250 feet tall, including its iconic spire, the giant space rock known as asteroid 4660 Nereus will be streaking past the Earth next week at a speed estimated at more than 14,000 miles per hour. In late November, NASA launched a spacecraft on a special mission to smash into an asteroid and test whether it would be possible to knock a speeding space rocket, of course if one were to threaten Earth. The DART spacecraft, short for Double Asteroid Redirection Test, lifted off from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California, atop a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. If all goes well, the boxy 1,200-pound craft will slam head-on into Dimorphos, an asteroid that is 525 feet wide and traveling at a speed of 15,000 miles per hour in September 2022. This isn't going to destroy the asteroid, it's just going to give it a small nudge, said mission official Nancy Chabot of Johns Hopkins.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Thanks for watching. Have a great day and stay tuned for CNN 10.
Hi, I'm Carl Azus. Welcome to the show. Yes, that's a partial quote from a U.S. senator who was asked recently if America is in a new space race with China. Neither of those countries was the first to reach space with a satellite. That feat was accomplished by the Soviet Union in 1957. 4 years later, that same country also launched the first person into space, Yuri Gagarin, in 1961. But in the years that followed, the United States eventually outpaced the USSR, and historians say America effectively won the first space race by putting 2 men on the moon in 1969. Since then, the US has been the global leader in space exploration and development. But China, as you'll see in just a minute, is taking steps to catch up. It's twice as fast to develop its capabilities in space, and he says the Asian country could surpass America there by the end of the decade. Is all this space exploration worthwhile? There's been a debate going on about that for years. Supporters say investigating other planets and galaxies teaches us more about our own and encourages the development of new technologies to solve problems. Opponents say deep space missions carry too much risk and bring too little benefit to people on Earth to justify the amount of money and time spent on them. In the past, that money came through government investment using taxpayer funds. More recently, privately funded space efforts have gotten off the ground. And regardless of how people may feel about space exploration, the efforts to push it onward and upward are expanding in several parts of the world.
2、1，点火！
Lifting off from their satellite launch center in the Gobi Desert, China rocketed 3 astronauts towards the country's new space station. The crew will now live and work there for 183 days. It's China's longest mission yet, and a major step in the country's young space program, quickly becoming one of the world's most advanced. Though China arrived late to space exploration, the government has been investing billions of dollars in its advancement. In the past 3 years, Chinese missions have brought rock samples from the moon back to Earth for the first time in 40 years, successfully landed an exploratory rover on the far side of the moon, and then one on Mars. They were only the second country to do so. The United States, unsurprisingly, came first. But America's cosmological dominance could soon be challenged by China, as well as other space-ambitious nations. As its space program expands, the United Arab Emirates also reached Mars earlier this year, though their mission didn't touch the surface. The UAE scientific satellite began orbiting the red planet in February. The country also plans to send an uncrewed spacecraft to the moon in 2024. India hopes to do the same later this year or in 2022. After a failed attempt in 2019, the country has been inching towards a new date for the unmanned lunar landing. India's Prime Minister is also encouraging the private sector to help the country's space ambitions, following the US in a pivot towards commercializing space. Another with lunar ambitions is the European Space Agency, which is working to develop a moon lander. The ESA also has probes currently exploring the solar system. Still a player in space, Russia is planning a collaborative asteroid mission, joining forces with China for a robotic probe set for 2024. They are also hoping to launch an automatic lunar station in July of next year.
Touchdown confirmed.
And in a first, both for space and cinema, a Russian film crew returned to Earth after shooting scenes on the International Space Station for the first ever movie partly filmed in space. As a whole, however, Russia's space program has dwindled from decades ago, when the Soviet Union launched the first satellite into space. In the meantime, Russia's former space rival has grown more ambitious. NASA has sent 5 rovers to explore the surface of Mars, just launched a 12-year mission to explore asteroids, and says it will soon land the first woman and first person of color on the moon. As advancements unfold, the space race is much changed from its former standoff era, now mixing contest with collaboration. Take a look at the crew on the International Space Station. Astronauts from the United States, Japan, Belarus, France and Russia. High above geopolitics, a truly international cooperation at the helm of humanity's next frontier. Isa Suarez, CNN.
10-second trivia. Which of these grocery store chains is oldest? Albertsons, Piggly Wiggly, Safeway, or Kroger? In 1883, Barney Kroger opened his first store in Ohio, and it's the oldest chain on this list. His motto, never sell anything you would not want yourself. But one challenge facing every grocery store is how to sell the meats, fruits, and veggies that are close to their expiration or sell-by dates. No one benefits when these foods are thrown out. But grocery stores' efforts to discount them haven't always worked, and some attempts to sell so-called ugly produce, which may have bruises or blemishes but is still good to eat, haven't worked either. There are several companies working to fix this, but they have their limits. For the application you're about to see, you can't find everything you need at a discount, only what the store has available and listed, and some users have reported getting moldy or soft produce through the app. But it could be one step in reducing food waste.
Not all the food that's grown, harvested, and sold in markets or restaurants winds up on someone's plate. In the U.S., up to 40% of the food supply is thrown out. Most of it will make its way to landfills where it eventually rots, emitting methane, a gas more than 25 times as potent as CO2 when it comes to trapping heat in the atmosphere.
If international food waste were a country, it would be the 3rd leading cause of greenhouse gas emission behind the U.S. and China.
Some of that waste comes from grocery stores, where unsold food often ends up in the dumpster. Around the world, grocery stores throw out an estimated 133 million tons of food every year.
The average store throws out anywhere from like $5,000 to $10,000 worth of food every day.
Canadian-based startup Flash Food wants to change that. Working with supermarkets, the company sells groceries that are approaching their sell-by date before they're thrown out. To attract customers, Flash Food marks items down by as much as 50%, savings that could really add up.
Some of our top shoppers have saved tens of thousands of dollars.
Shoppers use an app to see what items are available to them at nearby stores. The most commonly found products, according to the company, are fruit, vegetables, meat, and seafood, typically 1 to 2 days from their sell-by dates, but still fresh and perfectly good to eat.
We're actually dictating what people are going to have for dinner based on what's available through the Flash Food app. It almost becomes this treasure hunt where they're clicking stores and seeing what's available and seeing what deal they can get.
The groceries can be picked up from a Flash Food locker like this one, located at a giant supermarket in central Pennsylvania, one of the 1,200 locations the company is in across Canada and the U.S.
Grocers forever have always marked product down whenever it's getting close to the expiration date, but what you aren't able to do is really catalog it and put it out in a way where customers can see what's fresh today. Flash Food was quite innovative in putting all of that in one app where customers are able to see the different variety.
The giant company has deployed Flash Food in all of its 187 grocery stores in the U.S.
Year to date, we have diverted 700,000 pounds from food recycling or landfills.
Overall, Flash Food says it's diverted more than 30 million pounds of food that would have ended up in landfills, saving customers $90 million at the same time, and has plans to continue its expansion.
We're willing to work with any partners in any capacity as we continue scaling. This is a big problem and it takes a village to solve, and we're open and excited to continue to do that across America.
10 out of 10, there's no place like a new home for the holidays. Ebony Johnson and Suzanne Burke had a common bond: donuts. Johnson worked at the Dunkin' Donuts, where Burke regularly saw her at the drive-thru. They got to become friends. But when Johnson lost her home because of financial problems, Burke contacted local organizations, a furniture bank, and a designer who all worked together to provide a fully furnished home for Johnson and her family. Sounds like a good seasonal story, don't it? An old-fashioned friendship can make anyone jelly. You can glaze on it as the cream of the cream and chalk a lot of good outcomes up to it, because very few things are sweeter. With hazelnuts roasting over an open fire and Jack Frosted nipping at our noses, there's nothing like a warm donut, whether you like to dunk 'em or prefer the cream crispy, to bring people together. Our YouTube channel has brought a lot of us together. We are looking at you, Winfield High School in Winfield, Kansas. Thank you for your request. For CNN 10, I'm Carl Azus.